I mean, I hope someone writes a great show about Greg Giraldo someday because he was our mutual friend. I think one of the great comedians of all time.
Could have been.
Or could have been.
It was he was still.
He was early in his career.
Yeah, he was still an embryo.
And it was.
Same with Mitch and Patrice and like all those guys had such.
Kevin Barnett,
they were
same
all
way.
so, right? They were all so great. And it's like 20 years later, what would they have been,
Especially Giraldo. Like I always say, like, we're living in take culture right now, where it's like if you have a hot take, people are really interested in the social media. And it's like, Greg Giraldo had fucking 5 takes a day.
I know.
Guy had so many. Had so many takes, and they were so good, so fast.
Yeah, I know. That's what I missed during the pandemic with stand-up was hearing everybody's perspective on what we were all going through.
Yes,
and it was like you needed that, and like once you start hearing stand-ups talk about being at home and the bad ones making bread, it was like. And the same, I think that all the time with Greg. It's like, what would he be saying about this that I can't articulate?
Yeah. He's an interesting character because he was just a real purist of a comic. Like people would say, you should do a sitcom. You should do a one-person show.
He had a sitcom.
He kind of just wanted to do his own thing.
He did get pulled to do a sitcom. Remember, I don't know if you remember, he had a pilot. And there was about
being a lawyer because he was a lawyer.
And he was looking into his crib and talking to his newborn, and it was like a corny. It was this corny sitcom thing that they kind of made him do, and it was like, oh, that's not Greg at all. It's just not him. No, what he was courageous. I think that's what makes these people like that.
Yeah.
When you think of like Patrice or you think about Greg, they're brave.
Yeah.
And I remember being at this, like literally brave. I was at the cellar.
Right, like willing to be unpopular.
I was at the cellar and it was late night and there was a skirmish. We were all in the back and there was a skirmish. It was like a Monday, when like Mondays, Tuesdays late, it'd just be comics and maybe a couple people at the tables. And there was a fight breaking out. Like it sounded dangerous. It sounded like someone was gonna like stab somebody or something. Like,
oh wow,
girls screaming, guys yelling, stuff breaking, and I went like this, and Greg ran directly to it.
Yeah,
and I always remember that. It was like in that moment, instinctually, he had bravery.
Yeah,
but he also grew up in New York, so learned it. I was in the suburbs. Yes. Watching scary things on TV, so
I can read that right in your face.
Yeah. Did you have moments with your dad and your mom and your family in Italian settings? It probably wasn't restaurants.
I think like the thing that is Italian about my upbringing was I was youngest of 4. And it was always loud.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you wanted to be in the conversation, you had to be, like, either loud or funny or provocative.
Right.
Or else you just get steamrolled. Yeah. And, like, as I understand it, that's a very Italian cultural thing.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. My daughter moved into college with a Jersey Italian. And we're Jersey Italians too, but we've been out here for a long. She was raised here predominantly, and her little roommate freshman year was Italian, and she brought in like 7 Italian aunts, uncles, father, and they're putting together all of like the shelving, and they're building stuff and getting it all ready, and they're all screaming at each other. Like, where are the screws? Where are the fucking screws? I don't know. It's over here. And she was just like, oh my God, are they in a fight? And they're like, no, this is love.
That's the love language. And that's why I think that over the years, and I think you have this too with the Comedy Cellar, it feels warm.
Yeah.
Even though people are shouting at each other and arguing and yelling, trashing people. And I'm like, I kind of enjoy being around that.
Yeah, if they don't say it, if they don't say you're an idiot and they keep quiet, that means they really just don't like you.
I know.
They don't care enough to say out loud, "Don't be an idiot."
What did it when you were you ever trashed at the Comedy Cellar? Like, what would be the thing that people would say about you?
They would say, well, Patrice was the meanest. It was always about what you were wearing.
Right, sure.
You know, if you dared wear if I came in like this,
Sure.
they'd be like, "Oh, you're wearing a hoodie now."
Yeah, that's right.
They would just rip you apart. It was mainly that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was mostly
or that I was
parents.
acting nicer than I was.
Right.
You know.
I got that a lot.
Yeah.
You're not this nice.
You're not as nice.
That's like a
Look
classic.
at Birbiglia over there.
Yeah.
He's acting like a
Oh,
nice
he's not-
guy.
he's
Oh, I
not
do my
nice.
shows. I'm
He's
all
not
caring.
nice. Yeah.
There's something
not
under
nice.
there.
Yeah.
We're gonna one day it's gonna come out.
But it's all after all these years.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it's all projection. That all that kind of criticism.
Yeah.
They're not nice. And they can't handle the idea that you might actually be nice. They can't handle the idea that there might be nice people around.
It's really true.